Parliament has been found against in this judgment, that we must proceed to the dissolution of Parliament. We say that on the basis of saying it cannot be that we enter factional battles and seek to propose that we must support Cyril Ramaphosa or anybody from the ANC. It is the view of the collective that the ANC has been complicit in violating the Constitution, in defending criminality, and therefore to request of South Africans to then sit back and insist that another person must come in from the ANC would be to undermine constitutionalism, and therefore we want to resort to Section 50 of the Constitution, which calls for a dissolution of Parliament, and ultimately that anybody who wants to lead the ANC or wants to lead Parliament or lead the people of South Africa must have a mandate from the people of South Africa. And therefore it goes naturally to say that subsequent to that we would then move on to an early election so that we can contest elections and ultimately give them a fresh mandate to a sixth Parliament. So the only talks of a transition, CIC, should be a transition from the fifth Parliament to the sixth Parliament. Let me, in closing, reiterate the call of the leaders here, which is to state that where, in fact, the centenary celebrations of Nelson Mandela, we honor Nelson Mandela, but we believe that, in fact, no state resources must be used to sponsor an election campaign by the ANC. We have seen historically what they did at the funeral of Nelson Mandela. We are not going to permit or allow them to do likewise in the centenary campaign and ultimately abuse state resources in sponsoring a campaign for whoever the faction of the ANC is. With those remarks, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take that was held here today and say that we will have continuous engagement going forward as opposition parties. We can then take questions. Thank you, SG.
Thank you very much. May we check if there are questions from the members of the media? Yes, I must answer this side. I see one hand here. Any other hand? The second hand there. All right, no, thank you. We'll take that. If there's any other hand, you take it there up. You shall say your name and the media house you represent. We'll start with you, and then the second from SABC. Yes.
Thanks, Gay Davis from Eyewitness News. Mr. Mamoni, if you can just go over the scenario that you see playing out in terms of the dissolution of Parliament, explaining as if the President cannot be elected within the 30-day period, assuming that there's a resignation, then the acting President has to dissolve Parliament, and is that the scenario in which you see this unfolding? If you could just elaborate in that sense.
You can. Should we take a few and then go?
No, yeah, we'll take the second hand here.
Ulelani from SABC. I see that you are adopting a two-pronged approach, which, in other words, on one hand, you want the Parliament to be dissolved, but on the other hand, you want a motion of no confidence to be held urgently. Which one actually is it that you?
No, let me take one. Is there another one, or is that the only two?
These were the only two hands that we saw, at least for now. Yes, Anika.
Thank you so much. Anika Lassie, has there been any formal response from the Speaker of the National Assembly with regards to the request for a special sitting tomorrow? Please, thank you.
On the first, and I think I must answer the question that Bulalani raises first. Bulalani, it's not a two-pronged approach. It's to say everybody in South Africa has called for the removal of Zuma.
All right, as it is in live television, we've just lost a visual.
Let's go to Parliament, vote to remove Jacob Zuma through a Section 102 motion that removes the president. But then the question then arises after that. If the president is removed, there is a playing out that says, A, if it's in a Section 102 motion, the cabinet, which includes the deputy president, must then resign subsequent to that. And we hold a view that the acting president at that time must have the sole duty of then saying, whether it be we must dissolve parliament and in fact go to early elections. Because you can't then say with all the people who were there in parliament who violated their oaths of office, as the majority of the parliament has done and has been found against by the speaker, that we must proceed and say amongst that majority we must just simply elect a new president. So our position is to say there will be a removal of the president, but then what happens subsequent to that can't just be simply saying you apply the process where you say amongst the members who are remaining we must just pick one. Otherwise we run the risk of being factional. I think, I don't know if you want to add.
No, this thing is very simple. First thing first, motion of no confidence must take place this week, and Balaga has not responded to the EFF letter about bringing forward the motion of no confidence. And by tomorrow, 10 o'clock, if Balaga has not responded, the EFF is going to launch an agent application in court, because we are in a crisis as it is now as a country. Then, because we are going to succeed as all parties to remove Zuma through a motion of no confidence, we are confident about that. We will also dissolve ourselves. Once we remove Zuma, Parliament must be dissolved, because the Constitutional Court made a ruling that Parliament failed to discharge its responsibility when it couldn't protect the public protector, including holding the president accountable. That was the first time, and the second time was now on the impeachment, that we did not do what was expected of Parliament to hold the president through the processes of impeachment. So on a number of occasions, even though we as opposition parties have taken a stand, very strong positions against Zuma and how Parliament must conduct itself, we were defeated. And therefore we are part of the Parliament which has been taking wrong decisions throughout. And therefore our stay in Parliament will mean we are inconsistent and we cannot be relied on. Because if there is a ruling against Zuma, we say no, the court has ruled against Zuma, he must go. What about us as parliamentarians? Because there is a ruling against us by court. We must be consistent like that. So that's what is going to happen. It doesn't mean that it's a two-pronged approach. It's one approach. It follows each other like that. What we are saying is that we are not part of ANC factional battles. We are not for Cyril. We don't want Cyril to be president. Cyril is like Zuma, they are the same. Cyril was part of the people who defended Zuma's wrongdoing and helped him to violate the constitution. So when you say Zuma must go and fold your arms, you are unwittingly saying Cyril Ramaphosa must come in. And we cannot be part of that. We are not part of that. The problem is not Zuma. The problem is not Cyril. The problem is the ANC. So the ANC must be voted out. And the people of South Africa are now given an opportunity to choose properly this time around. That is the only way we can get our people involved to resolve this crisis we're confronted with as a country. We don't want some elitist arrangement where we sit as a group of elite and say from the opposition side we'll field this candidate, and then the other elite from the ANC side says we'll field this candidate without the involvement of the masses. The only way masses can be involved democratically and peacefully is through an election process. And let's do exactly that. That's where we come from. To think that when Zuma leaves, our problems are going to disappear, that is being disingenuous, and we're not being realistic. When the ANC leaves, our problems will disappear, because our problems are carried by the ANC. The last point I want to make is, why is the ANC not telling us the reason why they want Zuma to go? People just wake up one morning and they are all saying, well, in a discussion, Zuma must go, Zuma must go. And then no one asks them a question, why should Zuma go? You know the reasons of the opposition why Zuma must go. The ANC says Zuma must go for factional reasons. That's why you see Derek Anakom dancing the way he's dancing now. He's happy that it's their time to eat. That's why all of a sudden Derek has found a tune. He can dance because it's their time to eat. It's a factional reason why they want Zuma to go. And they are hijacking our genuine program to demand Zuma to go, because that is getting rid of corruption. But they've never uttered that from their mouth. Why are they not saying from the ANC side, we want Zuma to go because he's corrupt? Because the court found him that he has violated his oath of office. They have never said that. Because they agree with everything else Zuma stands for. They want to continue with the same things when they take power. They want Zuma to go because it's the time for Cyril's group to eat. And they call it a transition. Transition from what? It can't be a transition. It's not a transition. That is an abuse of concepts. It's factions changing, swapping seats. Instead of transition, we must call it swapping. It's not a transition, it's a swapping. From one corrupt fellow to another corrupt fellow. Transition means completely different thing. There is no transition taking place in South Africa. Factions are swapping. It's their time to eat. That's why Ubona because already. So they are dancing for their food because it's their time to eat.
General?
No comment.
But I just react to the question that Guy Davis asked. You're referring to section 86(1). If the president cannot be elected, then after 30 days there should be dissolvement of parliament. That's not what we're referring to. We are referring to section 51 of the Constitution. And that's a decision by the House taken by resolution with a simple majority to dissolve the House after 3 years have passed. And we've already been past the 3 years. So it's a question of the motion of no confidence in the president, and then afterwards a resolution to dissolve the House.
Thank you. Comrade Mbinda, we're moving like this in closing.
No, there are hands, the SG behind you.
Oh. Hi, Joseph. Musi.
Joseph Musi, SABC. Just a few questions. The first one is, we know that the ANC is having an NEC today, and it's speculated that they might call on the president they might recall the president. Would the EFF be willing, if asked by the ANC, to defer your own motion of no confidence and allow them to then call their own, or what's the position on that if they were to ask you? And secondly, the idea of Parliament being dissolved is not new. We know that the DA had called for such in the past when they had the previous vote of no confidence motion, and the EFF was actually quite opposed to that, if I remember well. What has changed your minds about it?
Right now you must
I'm a visit. No, the EFF never opposed the dissolution of Parliament. What we said to Musi is that we were together yesterday, and then the following day you called for a dissolution of Parliament without talking to us. We are colleagues, we must talk to each other and take each other into confidence. And that's what exactly happened now. We have spoken to each other and we found each other. And if you remember, the DA was even saying at the time, but you spot dissolution of Parliament, even we had made this point earlier about dissolution after every option available to us. We said the dissolution of parliament will be the last resort. So that's what we are doing. So we've been consistent about the whole thing. There's no ANC which is going to get any motion of no confidence from the EFF. It's our motion. And the motions of no confidence are governed by rules of parliament. So they are either going to wait a motion of no confidence of the EFF, or they will have to wait for another year. And if they wait for another year, it means that they must come and defend Zuma in the motion of no confidence of the EFF. They are in a difficult situation. We really don't care what the ANC is discussing in Zuma. The proposal